I was born in Washington State, Vancouver, Washington, where I lived until I was about 9 years old. I don't have too many memories of Washington, but I know that I had great friends there, and I'm the youngest of four, so I really enjoyed pestering my siblings and doing whatever I could to stay active because I love to be active. I played on many sports teams while being there, mostly soccer, and rain or snow. Well, I guess there wasn't really snow, but whether it was raining or sunny, I had a good time out on the field. And I really enjoyed playing. It didn't matter if I got hurt. I wouldn't show that I was hurt at all. I just would keep playing because I just loved it. Growing up, I was extremely shy. I had a hard time talking to anybody. I was a mommy's girl, and I would stay next to her at all times, no matter what. And I remember my best friend growing up in Washington was my cousin Josh. We did everything together, and if I was with him, I was fine. And so we went to preschool together, and I didn't need my mom to come to preschool with me because I could go in with Josh and be just fine. But then I was a year older in school than my cousin Josh, and so when I went to kindergarten, I had a really hard time because I was terrified. I was terrified to be on my own, and so that was the beginning of dragging my mom to school with me. And she came to school with me all the way up until 4th grade, which I don't know if I want to admit to that, but that's how it was. And I remember I had the nicest teachers ever until 3rd grade. 3rd grade, I heard about Mrs. White being the meanest, strictest teacher ever, so I was terrified to go to her class. And for the first probably half school year, I was terrified every single morning to go. But then I realized that Mrs. White wasn't so bad. We would always do sign language after we came in from lunch and recess. We would take 10 or 15 minutes to learn sign language, and then we would always play this spelling bee baseball, and it was my favorite. We actually got up and got to run around the room while practicing for our spelling tests, and it was really exciting. So I loved I loved Mrs. White. Other than that, I still was pretty shy growing up. Little by little, I got out of it a little bit. Junior high, you know, a little less shy, but still didn't like to socialize a ton. And then things changed in high school, and I wasn't quite so shy as I used to be. I moved to Utah when I was about 9 years old. We lived in a rental home for a couple of years while our house was being built in Highland. I had great friends while living in PG at our rental home, and by the time I was done there, I didn't want to move there, and then I moved to Highland, and I quickly made some friends that also had just recently moved into the neighborhood. I had my friend Courtney that was a year younger than me, my best friend Sadie Trowbridge that lived just around the corner from me, and then my other friend Melissa Ridge who lived down the street as well, and we were just all best friends because we were the only ones in the neighborhood. Over time, I ended up being better friends with Sadie and spent the majority of my elementary years as well as junior high being friends with Sadie, and we would do everything together. I know she was a cheerleader and I was a soccer player, and I was not a good dancer. I remember when I was 5 years old or something, I always told my mom, I'm pretty sure I got kicked out of ballet. She says, no, you just didn't like it, but I'm pretty sure that I got kicked out of ballet because I was so bad. Anyway, so Sadie was a cheerleader, and we decided that we wanted to do something together. So I said, okay, well, if you play soccer with me, I'll do cheer with you. Well, I did, and I did enjoy it because tumbling was really fun. The dancing part is not, like I said, that's not my strength, but I still enjoyed it. But it wasn't very fair because we never ended up going to our soccer games because our soccer games were always at the same time as the football games. So all we did was cheer. I quickly decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore, and I quit cheer and started on a more competitive soccer team, UC Freedom, where I played for years, probably 4 years, maybe only 3 years, but I played for quite a few years on UC Freedom with somebody that became one of my best friends who I'll talk about later, Kim Josie. I really love being outdoors. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, I just love to be outdoors. And it doesn't matter what season it is, because I love the snow, I love the rain, I love the sunshine. And so I really just enjoy being outdoors. Now, the activities obviously change. In the winter, I love to ski and snowboard or go snowshoeing. In the spring, spring and summer and fall are all similar. I like to play soccer, go out for a run. In the summer, I really like to swim and I like to boat. Our family does a lot of boating, which I'll talk about later. But I really enjoy being outdoors. And growing up, I've played a lot of soccer. It's been a huge influence in my life. When I got to Utah, it was hard to find a team and stick to a team because we were moving from PG to Highland and we couldn't find a good team that I wanted to stay on. And then I eventually found a team. It wasn't a competitive soccer team, but it was like a triple, I can't remember what they call it in Utah, but an upper division team. And I played with them for a few years and loved it. I was a forward. I loved to sprint, I loved to run, I loved to attack. And so that was always my favorite position. I also played a lot of midfield, so also crossing the balls into the center so that the forwards could then score. I would run up and down the sideline, so I just loved that. I loved to run. And in my older years playing on the high school team, that became a huge part of who I was. I remember I always loved school, but I needed a break, and soccer was that break for me. At the end of the day, when I got to go out on the field, or even when we had to run and do sprints, I loved it all. And I know it's the thing that relaxed me most. I had a bunch of good friends that I'll talk about later. I had a bunch of good friends that I met on my soccer team, and we did everything together. And so it made going to soccer feel very comfortable because we were all such good friends. We had such wonderful relationships on our soccer team. And I had a similar experience with track, which track I didn't really get into until my senior year. Up until my senior year, it was like, all right, sprint for my soccer game to go run the 400, the 4x4, the medley, and the 4x1 because coach wanted me there. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to improve, and I felt like it was just something to help me keep myself in better shape for soccer. But my senior year came around and soccer allowed me to dedicate myself to track as well. So I would finish school, fourth period was track on A days, and so I would go start running, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I wouldn't stop until 7 o'clock after soccer ended, because I would have track practice for 2 hours or so, and then I would jump straight in my car, drive down to Orem, and go to my soccer practice, which was also another 2 hours typically. But I loved it. I wouldn't have wanted to do anything differently. And both in soccer and track, I was able to excel. Soccer, as I began to get more comfortable playing with my team, I gained more confidence, which allowed me to perform better. And I had a coach that was amazing. She played at BYU, Coach Dahl, and she knew how to work us hard, and she knew how to push us to our limits. She knew exactly what we needed. And so I felt like she was exactly what I needed for my senior year soccer experience, because my foot skills improved, my technique improved, my speed improved, because we did a lot of cross training. We also did a lot of running, but it was different. Rather than sprinting us or running us down to the ground, we would do sprints, jogs, walks, sprints, jogs, walks, something similar to what you find in an actual soccer game, and that helped a ton. Track was a similar experience. I looked up to my coach so much. She was amazing. She pushed me. She said, you really do have so much talent. I want you to try this. And I would go and try it. And she was right. I did well. Something that I found out was that the 400 was my best event. And I didn't find that out until halfway through senior year. But as I started to run the 400, I ran my first 400 in just under 60 seconds. And that was what our fastest girl was running at that time. And so she's like, we got to get you training for this. And there wasn't much time left in the season, but I began training for that. And my state senior year at BYU, I ended up running a 57 in the 400, took 4th in state, which I was a little bit bummed about because my coach told me, remember, the 400 isn't your main event. We're trying to get you guys to take first in the 4x4, so make sure you save your energy. And I got out there, and I'm too competitive, so I decided, no, like I got to run harder than that. So I did, and I ran a 57, 71 or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was a little bit bummed because I remember telling my mom and dad, I totally could have ran faster than that. But it was still a wonderful experience, and I was happy to be able to accomplish such a thing. I also took 2nd in state for long jump. I loved to long jump, and that was something that came from my older sister. She long jumped in high school, and I remember thinking it was the coolest thing ever, so I wanted to do that, and I did, and I loved that as well. So there were a lot of great accomplishments throughout high school that I was able to do, and I know that this was a tangent, but the idea was that I just loved being outside, and so anything to get me outside I really enjoyed, and I stuck to it. All growing up, I really enjoyed learning. I would be driving in the car for hours. We always went on really long trips in the car because my Nana lived in Calgary, and so it was about a 14-hour drive. And I remember just dying. I hated being in the car, but the only reason I liked it was because I would ask my dad every question there was. If I was driving past windmills, I'd say, Dad, why are windmills in that formation? Or why are those ones like this? Or why is this like that? And I would just ask him questions the whole time. We'd always joke because I wouldn't sleep the whole time, but I would just keep my dad awake because I had so many questions for him. And it's because I loved to learn. That was always something that I loved to do. And school was easy for me, all going through elementary school, math especially, science as well. Reading was not my greatest strength, but I still was able to do okay with reading and spelling and other things. And I continued to love school up until high school. I had a 4.0 all throughout high school, and it wasn't very difficult for me. I was very motivated to do well. My parents never had to get on my back to get me to do my homework because it stressed me out when I didn't have my homework done. That was a priority for me. I wasn't going to say, well, I'm going to go play with friends when I knew I had homework to do, because that wasn't how I liked to do things. I didn't like to procrastinate whatsoever. I had a lot of teachers that inspired me, and I wanted to learn as much as I could because someday I wanted to grow up and be just like them. I remember in 6th grade I received the Hope of America Award, and Mr. Jolly presented that to me, and he was thrilled to be able to say that I was a hard worker and that I excelled in everything I did. And school, through grades, my grades reflected the hard work that I put in, but also the attitude that I carried throughout school was part of the reason for receiving that award. I remember him congratulating me for that and telling me to never forget what this means, and to go through school confident and excited and eager to learn, and that was a goal that I had made. So, like I said, all throughout junior high and high school, I loved to learn, and I started recognizing that I liked some subjects more than others, but I still liked all subjects. That's that's a little bit of a lie, because some subjects were harder than others, but I guess I was still motivated to do well in even the things that I did not enjoy so much. Things changed a little bit when I went to BYU. I was unsure of what I wanted to do. I know I was certain that I liked nutrition, and I thought that something like physical therapy, since all of my years playing soccer and track, I found learning about the body so interesting. Specifically, actually, I had an experience my senior year. I was in a state soccer game and I sprained my ankle pretty bad. My foot was bigger than my older brother's ankle, and it was black and blue, and I had to run the next day for my state track meet, and there was no way I was going to tell my coach that I wasn't going to run. And so I remember telling her that I had injured myself, and I asked her if there were any ideas that she had or anything that she would do before running on it. And she said, yeah, put it in hot water, burning hot water, and then freezing cold ice water, and do that a few times, you know, switching back and forth every minute. So I did that, and it was amazing. I mean, I know I had a lot of adrenaline because I was excited about running, and I wasn't going to quit then. I knew I was going to make myself do it, but my ankle really did feel a lot better. And that's when I realized that, wow, I'm actually really interested in learning more about my body, and I would love to be a coach one day and be able to say, hey, you know what, you're injured on this part of your body, do this and you're going to feel a whole lot better. I would love to be able to have that knowledge to just say, this is going to make you heal faster. So I decided to study or take a few nutrition classes, and my declared major at the time was exercise science. And so I was planning on going to PT school afterwards, but I also recognized that that wasn't very realistic. I didn't want to be in school that long because I was excited to be a mom. I was excited to move on with my life, and by the time I go through PT school, I really need to devote myself to my career, and I wasn't sure that that was what I wanted to do. So I went on a mission. That gave me some time to think about things. I came back and I realized that I wanted, well, I always told my dad that I didn't actually want to do accounting because I thought it was boring, but when I came back from my mission, I was like, well, maybe I would want to do that. So I considered that. I considered finance. I considered OBHR, and took all the classes, the prerequisites for business. And then I decided that that's not the path that I wanted to go down either. And so just recently this year, I've decided that I'm going to study statistics, and I'd like to be a data analyst, and I'd specifically like to do that in the health industry. I don't know what exactly, but I have a few ideas of what I'd like to do. And while sometimes I still wonder if that's the right path to take, I feel good about it, and classes have been going well so far. I get frustrated, which frustrates me because school has always been something that I've loved, and ever since I came to BYU, I've had a really hard time enjoying school. I've had a really hard time staying focused, and I get frustrated because tests don't go the way that I would like them to. They don't go how they used to go, because in high school, like I said, school wasn't very difficult for me, and I know that a lot of the frustrations could be fixed if I just focused on the journey and enjoyed myself while school may be difficult. If I could just find the joy that I used to in the subject, in the materials that I'm learning, then I think that it would be a more enjoyable experience. So I'm currently trying to work on that. I've been trying to work on that for a while, but I'm a huge advocate of education. I know that if I push myself, then I'll accomplish more than I could ever even imagine. And so that's part of my motivation in finishing school, is that if I don't push myself now, then I never will, because I'll tell myself that I can't do certain things. So I want to major in something that challenges me. I don't want to do something easy, because I know there are a million other, not really, there are a few other majors that I could pick that would be an easier route, but I don't want to do that. I want to do something that will challenge me so that I can teach myself that I can do hard things, which is something that my coaches would always tell me. And so, yeah, education is a huge part of me, and I'm grateful for the wonderful education that I have. I've had so many opportunities to attend good schools. My high school was great. BYU is great. I know there was discussion about maybe going to another school because that's what my friends were doing, or going to another school because I wanted to participate in sports and I didn't want to try out for sports here at BYU. But I decided to come to BYU, and it's been the best decision of my life. I don't even know where to start with this section, because my friends mean the world to me. I've always been a people person. You can ask my husband now that I cannot even spend 5 minutes on my own. I don't know what to do. I have to be with somebody. And so my high school friends specifically changed my life. They had the best influence on me, because while Lone Peak had a lot of scary things going on, we just didn't have the best influences around us. There were some naughty things that would go on, and I didn't want to be a part of that, but luckily my 4 best friends in high school never wanted to be a part of that either, so it wasn't even a temptation for us. I met my friends through soccer. Sarah Josie, I just called her Sarah Josie, Sarah Burns, who is now Sarah Fotu, Kara Olson, who is now Kara Jensen, and then Kenzie Evans and Kim Josie. We laugh because we actually got nicknamed the Fab Five by our soccer coach, Coach LaHargue, because we were inseparable. We would do everything together, and we never would fight. We were always extremely close, having a good time. They would always hear about stories outside of soccer even, and that wasn't common, because while we all came together and were friends at soccer, most people had other friends, but we just stuck to each other. And I could probably spend 3 hours talking about them. Right before doing this, I texted them. I'm like, guys, I need our funniest story from high school. And it was like, share this, share this, share this. And they sent pictures to me, and it's just great memories. Nothing but good memories with them. And one of my favorite memories is Kim was known as Lil Kim because she just looked little. She is little. She's 5'1", 5'2", no, 5'3", sorry. And she's just a little girl. Little Kim is what we would call her. And for some reason, Kim was always the one to tease. Not in a bad way, we just loved to tease Kim. And it was funny because we loved to be outside. Just like I mentioned, I like to be outside. My friends also love to be outside, so we were always doing things outside. And one of our favorite things to do was rollerblading. And all of us loved it except for Kim. Kim hated it because she always got left behind. For some reason, she always got the terrible skates or rollerblades, and something would break or she would fall, and she was just always left behind. And we always laughed because Sarah was always the one to break the rollerblades. And then the next time that we went out, Kim somehow ended up with the broken rollerblades. And so she would be yelling at us, guys, wait for me. And we'd keep going, but not on purpose, but we'd just keep going. And so she always hated it because she was just left behind. And she was always the one to get hurt. I remember we have a huge dent in our wall. In fact, you can see like the metal frame behind the wall because somebody saran wrapped us. I can't remember who it was, but then somebody like pushed us with our finger, and Kim and I both fell into the wall and our heads bonked the wall, and now there's a huge hole in my basement. And another story about Kim getting injured. One time we were biking and I went to go cross. Wait, how did it work? Oh, Kim went to go cross. We were like this. She's on this side, and Kim went to go cross the street, and I still went straight. And so then we both fell, but Kim got like road rash, extremely terrible. Her arm was all scraped up, and it was just terrible. But Kim was tough. She was used to getting hurt, as terrible as that sounds, but she was a tough one, and we had a lot of fun together. Everybody would make fun of us because they thought that we were stuck-up brats because we didn't actually talk that much. Our junior and senior year, we got a little more social, but we just really enjoyed being together, so we didn't talk to other people as much outside of school, at least. We would during school, but we were intimidated by a lot of people, and so we would just do things together. Every day we would see each other at soccer, and then we'd come home and we'd still want to spend time together. Every lunch was spent with them, and everybody says that after high school you lose those friends. Well, I'm never losing those friends because they've been a huge support in my life. They have extremely strong testimonies, and they're always encouraging me to do better, and so I want to keep that group of friends for forever, and I think I will, and I'm grateful that life isn't so serious with them. I mean, we're doing good things, but we know how to have a good time. And I had a similar experience going to college. I know I was really nervous about leaving my friends because they were my life. I loved spending time with Kim, Kenz, Kara, and Sarah, and going to college, we all went to different places. Well, I guess Kim, Kara, and Sarah all went to USU, but the rest of us, Kenzie and I, went to BYU and then BYU Hawaii for Kenz. And so I was really nervous about not being around them and not having friends, and I ended up living with my second cousin. Well, come to find out, we had the best roommates in the world. I became best friends with them as well, both Mackenzie Taggart and Jordan Coburn. We had so much fun together. I don't know what our junior or our freshman year was even about because we would do nonsense, but we really enjoyed being together. I would go running with Jordan all the time, and all four of us would wake up for a class. I think the class started at, it must have been 6 a.m. or maybe 5:30. Yeah, 5:30. So I think we'd wake up at like 5 o'clock to go to these workout classes, and we would just be pumped. And we always would laugh because Kenzie was up all night doing homework because she was out the night before hanging with friends. She was just the social butterfly. And so we would laugh because when it was time to get up, it was like a struggle, but we would make it. And Jordan was just a go-getter. She does things just like that. Everything's just fast for her. She's extremely smart. We'd talk to her during finals week, and it's like, what test are you taking today? Oh, I just took Book of Mormon, nutrition, science, math. I just have 2 more tests left tomorrow, and I'm done. It was just like, go-getter. Lindsay is your schedule queen. Everything has to be scheduled. She has her calendar, and we cannot do anything different than what's on her calendar. So when we got her to get out of bed at 10:30 and interrupt her routine, it was like, wow, you guys, this is awesome. Lindsay's out. We got to go party for the night. So we always laughed at that. And then we each went our separate ways. 3 of us went on missions. Lindsay graduated while we were gone and is now in grad school, so she's killing it as well. We all got married, and so we enjoy doing things together. And life has just been good. We do a lot, like I said, with both the Fab Five as well as my freshman roommates. Those are basically our go-to couple friends because we just enjoy spending time with them, both Brad and I. And like I said, I can't really even talk about my friends because I get emotional thinking about them because they've changed my life. I know that seems dramatic, but really, they were always there for me. When I didn't believe in myself, they believed in me. And when things were hard, they were always there. And I always joke because life hasn't been difficult. And I think I owe a lot of that to the wonderful friends that I've had, because I couldn't be stressed with them. I couldn't be in a bad mood with them because they were always so happy and so fun to be around. And so I really, really lucked out with my friends, and I consider them a huge blessing in my life. My family is also another huge influence in my life. All my friends growing up would say, "Oh man, I have to go to this family party tonight." And it was always, for me, it was, "Yes, we have another family party tonight." Or, "Mom, when are we going to get together with our cousins?" Or, "Can we do this tonight as a family?" I just absolutely loved spending time with both immediate and extended family. And I have an amazing family. They've been the best support throughout my whole life. And I consider it a huge blessing to have the parents and the siblings that I do. I know my parents have always mentioned things that they would do differently if they could go back in time. But I always tell them I don't think there's one thing I would change about the way that they did things, because I feel like who I am today, I owe who I am today to them. And I had an amazing relationship with my mom. Like I said earlier in my childhood video, I would not leave her side. I was such a mommy's girl, and I was afraid to leave her side. I was so shy. I just wanted to be next to Mom, and I would do everything with her. I loved going shopping with her. I still love going shopping with her. I think she's the kindest, sweetest lady, and she never talks badly about anybody. And she always reminded me the importance of finding what I love in life and accomplishing all that I can. And she was a wonderful example of service. She loves to serve others. She would get up every single day and make me crepes or French toast because I didn't like toast, I didn't like eggs, I didn't like cereal. I was so picky growing up, but my mom was just the sweetest lady who would get up and take time to make me something else so that I could enjoy my breakfast. And I enjoyed that morning with her, and she would make me a lunch because I didn't like school lunch. I lied. I purchased school lunch once in my life, and I ate one bite of it. I thought it was so gross. So I was spoiled in that way, but my mom was so willing to do those things for me. And it wasn't just for me, it was for the rest of my family and for our extended family and for her friends. She just loves to serve people. And she taught me an important lesson about being kind to your mother, because she treats her mom so well. And my Nana, her mom, is getting extremely old, but my mom just has so much patience with her as she is getting older, and she just loves her, even though sometimes, you know, she can drive her crazy, not in a bad way. She still just loves her, and I hope that I'm the same for her as she grows older and as I get older, because I want to keep that relationship that I have with her. My dad also has been a huge support. I remember during my high school years, my dad was extremely busy with work, and he would come in and his eyes would be bloodshot, but you'd ask him about his day and he'd say that it was great. And rather than focusing on work and being stressed about work, he would come to my soccer games, come to my track meets. And I'm sure that that was actually the last thing that he needed in his life, was another event to go to, but he was always there. In fact, my parents never missed anything, and when they did, it was like the end of the world. "Oh no, we can't come to your soccer game. Oh no, we can't go to your track meet today. Do well, do this." They'll give me a pep talk and tell me to go out there and do well, do the best that I could do. And that inspired me to do better in both sports and in school. And I was so grateful to have such a wonderful support in my life. And my siblings were also amazing examples to me. I was a lot younger than them, so I actually don't have the best memory. All I know is that every single video I watch, I was always with Brandon. He was always holding me as a baby, and Kristen was always mauling me, and Brian was always mauling me. And then as I got a little bit older, it was like, well, now I'm going to maul you guys because I don't want to be alone, and I'm going to make you guys play with me. So I was always mauling them. And then as we got older, I remember it was amazing because I never fought with my siblings, nor did I want to. There was no reason to fight with them. And we just had really good relationships. And as we grew older, it became easier. We were in the same time period, mostly the last few years, where we can enjoy being together and we enjoy the same activities. So I really enjoy that. Our family loves to be outdoors. Boating is our thing, and we absolutely love it. Brian is an incredible wakeboarder, and I've always, at first I didn't like wakeboarding that much. I liked tubing, but over the last few years I've really developed a love for wakeboarding, and I don't think I'll ever be nearly as good as him, but I look up to him and I try to do the things that he does, and right now I'm just crossing the wake, but maybe one day I'll be able to do something a little more than that. But we love spending time together. Lake Powell is my absolute favorite vacation because I get to spend hours and hours and hours with my family playing games, swimming, hiking, just laying out in the sun, and it's extremely enjoyable. I love it. I also just love barbecues or picnics with the family because anything relaxing in the sun, like I said, is extremely enjoyable to me. And so that's also something I love. And like I said, this is another thing that I can't talk too much about because I really do just feel so grateful for my family. And I remember on my mission, it was the hardest thing to leave them. It was so hard, and I would cry every single night because it was like, I'm not used to coping with these things on my own. I always had my family, or I always had sports or outdoors, sorry, to help me cope with these hard challenges that are coming my way. But I found out quickly that my family was just as present on my mission as they were at any other time in my life, because they would support me through letters, and when I got to talk to them, it was the most exciting thing. And so I have an amazing family, and I'm really grateful for what they've done for me. Deciding to go on a mission was the hardest thing I've ever decided. I remember when the announcement was made, all my friends called me, the Fab Five that I talked about, all my friends called me and they were like, Kate, are you going to serve a mission? Are you going to serve a mission? You totally are, huh? And I sat there thinking, I have no clue. But the reason that people assumed that I would was because the gospel meant the world to me, and I liked to share that. I liked people to know that. But that didn't change the fact that I was still pretty shy, and the idea of a mission terrified me. Beyond that, I could not imagine leaving my family for 18 months. That sounded like just way too hard for me. I didn't think that I was going to be able to do it. And so I just said to myself, I'm not going to think about this over the next few months, and then I'll take some time to think about it later. And I remember in February, or maybe January, my friend Kara Olson gave me a call, and she's like, Kate, I want to do this. I want to serve a mission, and I want you to help me. And I said, Kara, I've been thinking about this a lot as well, and I actually am really considering it. I don't want to talk to too many people about it because it's not a for sure thing, but I do want to consider it. And so we both talked for probably 2 hours over the phone. She was at USU and I was at BYU, but we talked over the phone for probably, like I said, 2 hours. And then we took the night to think about it, and I think I gave her a call the next day, and I was like, Kara, I really do just feel good about this, so I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to start the process. And I told my parents, and this was extremely difficult for me because my mom was not so sure about it. She didn't want me to leave, obviously. We had a good relationship, and that was going to be hard for her. And so I thought twice about it. My dad said, Lizzie, like, I don't want her to go just as much as you don't for selfish reasons, but I think this is something that would be really good for her. And they talked about it and came back and apologized and said, like, we want to support you with this decision of yours, and it's going to be difficult, but like, we know that it'll be really good for you. And so I said, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I prayed and I said, fear is the one thing that will possibly stop me from going on a mission, specifically fear about leaving my family. I had enough worries about not being able to teach the gospel because I had a very simple, strong, firm testimony, but very simple. I didn't know that much about the scriptures, and that worried me. But I told Heavenly Father that if I felt good about my decision, and if I didn't think back on it, and if I didn't have too much fear going into it, that I was going to do this. So I opened my mission call, and I was ecstatic. I was so excited about going to Argentina, Buenos Aires South Mission. And I didn't know anything about it, but all I knew is that this was right and that I was excited. And so I prepared for my mission, and I wasn't even very sad to leave my family up until 48 hours before, and it hit me, and I almost had a heart attack thinking about how I had to leave my family for 18 months. And then I left, and the first 3 weeks at the MTC were the hardest weeks of my life. I cried every single night, and I would go to class and feel frustrated because I was in an intermediate Spanish class for some reason, and I did not know any Spanish. And we would laugh about it, but in my heart was broken that like I couldn't just learn this faster than I was. And I had a lot of amazing people around me that encouraged me to keep going, and that this was worth it, and that it was going to be okay. There was Brother Doman, President Doman in the branch presidency, that literally changed my perspective at that time in my life about the mission. And he helped me realize that I'm going to have father and mother figures throughout the mission, that God will provide me with people who will comfort and take care of me when I need them most. And that's exactly what he did for me. I remember right before leaving the MTC, he gave me a blessing, and it reminded me of one of my father's blessings that I would always receive. And he said, you know what? You need to go out there. You're going to do well. Don't worry about it. Give yourself time to learn. He's like, remember that Heavenly Father is watching over you. Remember that you have the power to bless other people's lives, and focus on that. And that changed my life. I focused on other people, and it was hard at first because I wanted to keep thinking back, looking back to my family and thinking about how much I missed them. But whenever I would do that, I would try to focus on these people that I was teaching. And it was so inspiring that he was one, that he had the Spirit with him, and that he was able to give me such an amazing blessing that comforted me. And two, he literally showed me the principle of love and charity, because I could just feel his love. And he told me that I reminded him of his own daughter, and that I needed to go out there, that I needed to marry. He talked to me about marriage, and that I shouldn't settle, and that when I come back from my mission, I need to find a worthy man. And I just remember sitting in that room thinking like, wow, this is great. Like, I'm away from my family, but with people like this around, I feel like I'm I'm close to my family, and I was, because my family was with me throughout my whole mission. And in Virginia, so I got reassigned to Virginia while waiting for my visa. In Virginia, I got out there and it was really hard again, and I could go into detail, but there's a lot of detail to go into, but it was really hard. And once again, I would cry, not every single night, but fairly often, and I would express those feelings in my journal because I did not like to express those feelings to my companions or anybody else. I had to act like I was really enjoying this because that's all I wanted. I wanted to love the mission. That was my whole entire goal. When in my mind I was thinking like, wow, like I don't know if I'm going to last. 1.5 years is a long time. But as I began to really enjoy teaching the people and developing relationships, it became easier and easier to be away from my family, because not that those relationships could ever be replaced, but the love that I felt from my family was now replaced for this time, during this time, by the love that I felt for the people of Virginia. I had a wonderful mission president, President Wilson, who was a great support. And I remember leaving Virginia was extremely difficult because I said, I'm just going to start over. This is going to be difficult. Things were going really well. I had the best companion ever. Hermana Dangerfield was so happy we got out. We came out on the mission at the same time, and so teaching was so hilarious because we both weren't super comfortable with Spanish because we were put together after 3 months, but we just loved being together. And the Spirit testified to us that we weren't the ones teaching, that we needed to teach through the Spirit, that we would be guided in what to say, no matter what language it was in. And that's how every single lesson went. I came out of every single lesson thinking those were not my own thoughts. Those were not my own comments. And I did not just speak Spanish that well, or they did not just understand me that well, because my Spanish was not up to par at that time. But I remember thinking, wow, like this is just incredible. I love this. And I was so happy at that point in my mission. And when I received my call to go to Argentina, this was after 6 months of being out on my mission, I just bawled. I bawled because I was terrified. There were a few baptisms we were planning on having, and I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there for them because these people meant so much to me, but that just wasn't going to happen. And so I decided to have a better attitude about it, and I went out to Argentina and I opened up an area with my companion Hermana Diaz, and it was extremely difficult. And I remember it was a week before Christmas, and so I talked to my parents on Christmas, my family on Christmas, and I remember trying to be strong, but just thinking that like, I'm so homesick again, I'm in a new country. It was so difficult. And I hung up the phone and realized that I wanted to say a prayer with them, and so I called them back bawling, and I said, I want to say a prayer with you guys. And I had my older brother offer a prayer, and I remember feeling at peace after that once again I was homesick. I was, and I wasn't going to be able to hide that, but I remember thinking the same thing, that I just needed to learn to love these people in Argentina now. And that's exactly what I did. And that happened in every single area of mine. And it became difficult to leave every area that I was in because these people meant the world to me. And if they didn't have the gospel in their lives, that's all I wanted for them, because I knew that that was going to make them happy. And so I would work my tail off to try to help these people feel the Spirit so that they could understand the importance of living the gospel. It wasn't just something that I was trying to sell to them. I was trying to bring them happiness, and I got to experience that in my mission. I got to see people flip the switch and have that light turn on and recognize that they could be so much happier than or have so much more happiness than what they already had. And I get emotional about my mission because while I wish I could say that I did more for other people than I did for myself, I don't think that's the case. Because while I know I did great work out there, I came back a whole different person. And I had a strong testimony before, but my testimony afterwards was immovable. I just recognized that I was never going to give this up. I don't ever want to give it up because I know that the church is true, and my parents taught me that, and I want to teach my kids that, and I want them to teach their kids that, and I want that to go on for forever, because there is nothing more important in our lives, because that is our whole purpose of being here. And I'm so grateful not only for my testimony and for the comfort that that brings to me, but I'm grateful for the life that has provided me with, because living the gospel has provided me with the best life that I could ever imagine. I married the man of my dreams, who also has these same goals and aspirations, and it just makes life so easy to enjoy. And I know I got on a little tangent. I'll talk about my husband later because he's awesome, but the mission was incredible. I had incredible mission presidents, and my mission president in Argentina was President Thurgood, and I can't tell you all the support that he gave to me. And I remember, this is something that's very sacred to me, but I remember in my last area, I had a companion that was really struggling and made some wrong decisions and ended up having to go home. And that was really hard on me, that was really hard on her, that was hard for everybody. And so the last part of my mission was actually pretty difficult, and it was different missionary work. And I had several interviews with President because he was coming up often to our area to work with my companion. And so I had a lot of opportunities, neat opportunities to talk to him one-on-one. And I remember as my companion was leaving a few days prior, he came up and he wanted to have an interview with me as well. And he said, "Hermana, I don't know why I have the feeling that I need to tell you this," but he said, "Your mission has been preparing you to one day be a mission president's wife." He's like, "I don't know what that means exactly, because you've done so much work, and I know you've learned other things, and that's not something you've thought about." But he's like, "I want you to watch my wife. I want you to observe what she does. I want you to observe how she loves the missionaries, because I truly do feel that that's what your mission has been preparing you for." And I wasn't sure what to think about that, but that helped me in deciding who I wanted to marry when I got home, because I knew that I needed to marry somebody worthy, but I wanted to marry somebody that I could picture being a mission president. I wanted to marry somebody, what that meant to me was that I wanted to marry somebody kind, somebody charitable. I wanted to marry somebody that strives to live by the gospel principles. I wanted to marry somebody that loved to serve. And that's what I looked for when I got home. And it made it clear to me when I was deciding who to marry, made it clear to me that when I met Brad, he was the right one. And I'm not saying that we're going to go out and be mission president and mission president's wife, but I am saying that we can and should live by those principles as if that's what we were striving to do. Because, like I said, my mission presidents were both some of the most amazing people I've met in my life. And I want to be just like them and I want Brad and I to be just like them and their wives, because they just showed me how to love. And there's a lot that I could say about them, and there's a lot that I could say about my mission, but I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity that I had to serve the mission. Wow, where to start with this one? This one's exciting. So I was in the same ward as Brad, and we had been in the same ward since September, but I didn't ever even see him until December. And I remember I saw him the last day before winter break, and he actually handed me my tithing settlement envelope. And I remember looking at him and thinking, who is that guy? Why have I never seen him? And I asked my roommate, I went back, I was like, have you ever seen him? Do you know who that is? And they were like, no. I was like, So I didn't think about it over winter break. So I got back from winter break and I went on a date with Brad's roommate, Dallin Farnsworth. And we went to the Jazz game and it was really fun. And then we started spending more time together, Dallin and I. But I wasn't thinking anything more than just friends. He was just fun to be around. But we had a lot of the same classes together, and finance was one of those classes that we had, and Brad was also in our finance class. And so every time I went to finance, I sat by Dallin. Well, Brad sat right next to Dallin. And I remember thinking like, oh, he's so cute. He was shy, but he was cute, he was handsome, and I wanted to talk to him, but I was also shy, so I wasn't going to try too hard. And so I just kind of let things happen. And then eventually we talked a little more, and Dallin kept asking me on dates, and I had things come up and I wasn't able to. And then I was kind of dating somebody else, but I wasn't actually that interested in them, which sounds rude. I wasn't like that, but I wasn't interested in them. And all I kept thinking about was how I wanted to go on a date with this guy, Brad. And so I tried to talk to him a little bit more, and then I remember one day I was driving up to Highland and I called my sister. I'm like, I don't know what to do because his friend Dallin keeps asking me on dates, and I know that if I keep going on dates with him that I'm never going to have the opportunity to go on a date with Brad. And I know this is pathetic, but I don't even know him that well, but he's really cute and I really want to go on a date with him, so what do I do? And my sister's like, you just got to be honest with that guy. So I made up this plan that I was going to tell him that I was dating somebody. Oh no, that I was interested in somebody else, which I was kind of interested in that guy that I was kind of dating, but really I was thinking Brad. And the guy that I was kind of dating knew about Brad as well, so it was kind of weird because Brad didn't even know about this. But anyway, so I told Dallin that, and then shortly after, Brad and I started talking more and more, and we would run into each other at the most random times. I remember thinking, I never see people at campus, but for some reason I would always see Brad on campus, and I would just smile whenever I ran into him. And my family knew about him, and I wasn't one to talk about guys. It embarrassed me, but for some reason it was different with Brad. I wanted to tell everybody about Brad. And we went, our first little get together was, I knew a couple of people from his mission, and they were doing a waffle party, so I asked him if he wanted to come with me. So we went to that, and we ended up talking for a long time. And then I dropped him off because I had a soccer game. And then a week or so later, I don't know, it all went by really fast, but a week later, I was extremely stressed one Saturday because I had a lot to do and I had a date that night. And I always try to get a run in, so I went to the Smith Field House to run, and while running, I ran into Brad, and he stops me. He's like, hey, like, what are your plans for the day? And I was like, I don't know, just doing homework. I didn't want to act like I was that busy, didn't mention anything about my date. And he said, like, well, when you're done with your run, would you want to go get a Jamba? And I was like, oh, yes. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh no, I have 10-page paper to finish and I'm not even close, and then I have a date tonight, but I can't say no. So I said, yeah, I would love that. So I ran home, got showered, and he came and got me, and we went to Jamba, and we ended up talking for an hour or two, maybe just an hour, I don't know. But it was super comfortable, and he was headed up to Kaysville, so I knew that I wasn't going to see him at church the next day, and I was bummed about that, but it was like, okay, like, great. And he, come to find out, actually had a date that night as well. That's why he was going up to Kaysville, which is funny. But, so yeah, that's our second, like, shindig thing that went down. I don't know what to call it, but it was our first date, I guess, because the other one wasn't a date, not even close. And then a few weeks later, can't remember the order. Oh yeah, over President's Day weekend, my family went to Mesquite, and we ended up getting back early on Monday, and I was so excited because I knew that that meant that maybe I would get to do something with Brad because he stuck around that weekend. So he ended up coming up to Highland, and we went razoring, and then he had dinner with Mom and Dad and I, and with Mom and Dad and me. We'll laugh about that one. But it was fun, and I was just more convinced that I really liked this guy. I was about to say that I was so in love with this guy, but I wasn't in love with him at this point. But I knew that things were different because I never wanted to be around guys this much. I had dated a lot of guys, and it took a lot to get me to spend tons of time with them. I usually liked to be around friends, but with Brad it was different. And so after that, the following week, I went up and I got to babysit this family in my ward for 5 days or so. So I was gone for quite a while. And I remember it was really hard. The kids were a little bit crazy, and so it ended up being a really stressful experience, especially because I was in school. And so I called Brad one night, and we talked for like an hour or so. And I just remember being so interested and engaged in our conversation, and he told me about his uncle who had passed away, and he shared a lot of personal things about himself, and I got to know him better than ever over that week because we would talk over the phone every single night. And okay, I'm really bad at this story because I actually need to backtrack, because before we had started spending a lot of time together. And we even, like the night before I left, we went out, and he took me to the, like, Outlook by the Y, and I totally thought in my mind, I was afraid that he was going to kiss me, and usually I would have been more afraid of that, but I actually felt pretty comfortable with him, but I still was like, whoa, like, why are we up here? What are we doing? But it was just fun. We just talked, and by the end, when he took me home, I was the one that really wanted to kiss by that point. I was like, wow, he still hasn't kissed me. Because most guys try to kiss pretty quickly these days. Anyway, and so back to the story. When I got back from babysitting, I was really excited to see Brad. And he came over and we watched The Ultimate Gift, which is one of my favorite movies. And then we were standing by the door, and he doesn't remember this as well as I do. But I thought it was the cutest thing ever because he felt a little bit bad that our kiss was just at La Jolla, my apartment. But we stood by the door, and he looked at me and he said, Kaitlyn, like, I've been trying to think of as many excuses as I can of reasons why not to date you. but I've run out of reasons. And so then he kissed me, and I thought it was darling. And I remembered that. I remembered him saying that, like, he didn't want to just date me just to date me. And that's why he mentioned, like, I needed to look for reasons why not to date you, but, like, there aren't any. So then he kissed me, and we ended up dating, and things were good. Things just felt right. And like I said, I had never been so excited about being with somebody in my life. And a few weeks went by, and we spent time with my family. We spent time with his family, and I kept thinking about it. I'm like, why do I care so much? Like, why do I always want to be with him? It was kind of annoying. Like, I wanted to be with my friends still. They're important. But more so, I wanted to spend time with Brad. And I remember for a long time, it hadn't even been that long, and I was already like, I'm pretty sure I love this guy. And I kept thinking, there were so many times where we'd go out on hikes, and I thought he was going to say it to me, and I was like, I cannot be the first one to say it. And then it happened, and I was like, okay, like, I'm done. Like, I really do love him, and I can't hide that. So I told him that I loved him, and he said that he loved me as well. But it kind of worried me, because in my mind it was like, I don't know if he just felt like he needed to say that because I told him that, and you can't just be like, oh, great, like, okay. So I was worried about it, but then over time, like, I could tell that he deeply cared about me as well, and things were different, and things were going in a good direction, and we started talking about marriage. Once again, this was all pretty early on, and I got really excited, and people would ask me, like, well, are you thinking September, August? Are you going to do, like, next April, 2 years? Like, are you even talking that? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we just know that we are going in that direction. And so then it was, like, kind of something that was put on the back burner for a while. We didn't want to discuss it. But housing was really stressful because I needed to decide if I was going to live with my friends in fall. And I couldn't just say, like, I really like this guy, so I think we might get married. So I don't want to make any plans yet, but, like, that's exactly what was going through my mind. Anyway, by the time June came around, we knew that we definitely wanted to get married. We weren't exactly sure when, but we wanted to get married sooner than later. And then by the end of June, we decided, like, well, let's do it at the beginning of the semester, because we don't want a winter wedding, and we don't want to wait. Like, there's no point in waiting. And so then we had a lot of fun activities throughout June and July. And then we actually ordered the ring through my friend's dad's cousin, the Burns. And so I wasn't sure when we were going to get engaged, and everybody would ask me. I'm like, I don't know. And then one night Brad was like, hey, like, my brother, he had just purchased this 1984 convertible. I don't know, an old convertible, a red one. And he's like, we should go up the canyon and take a drive. And he's like, I'll come get you tomorrow after work. So I was excited. I didn't think anything of it because I knew that he didn't have the ring yet. And he wasn't even planning on it either. But then he decided, like, this is the perfect opportunity. And so he organized it so that my family could be up there, up in AF Canyon. And we drove up there. He parked the car, and we went for a walk. And I still didn't think anything of it. I was clueless. I was just like, yeah, like, this is fun. And then I saw my family. I was like, what's going on? And I looked at him. I was like, no. And then he kept walking. He's like, keep coming. And then he got one, like, we walked over to the corner, not the corner, but, like, kind of by the river. And he got down on one knee, and he asked me to marry him. And I was shaking at this point. I was terrified, but I wasn't really sure why, because I had made my decision that I wanted to marry him. But I was just so happy, and, like, I couldn't even find words to express, like, what I felt at that time, but I said, like, yes, of course. It wasn't even, like I said, it wasn't even a question of whether or not I wanted to marry him. And so I said yes. Then I gave him a big kiss, and he gave me flowers, and it was awesome. And so at that point, we had already started making plans for our wedding, but it was just nice to be able to say, like, hey, this is my fiance. And we discussed dates and finalized that afterwards, and we changed it actually. But we ended up getting married September 16th, and planning for the wedding was stressful. Like everybody says, it was stressful, but it was awesome. I remember I had never fought with Brad ever, or even been upset with him, but there was one time that I was overwhelmed, and I think he was overwhelmed, and we just left that night like feeling off. And I called him, and I just started bawling, and we talked for 2 hours about how, like, that was just, like, uncomfortable. And we didn't even get mad. Like, we didn't say anything, but it was just weird. And I remember thinking, like, wow, I hope that our marriage is like that as well, where we just enjoy being around each other, where it's easy to get along, where we don't fight very often, and that's exactly how it is. And I would say that Brad, more than anything, is a peacemaker, and so it's easy for me to love him, and marriage has been the best thing ever. The day we got married, I remember thinking that I would be extremely nervous, but I wasn't, like, until I got to the temple, and then I was like, whoa, like, this is happening. I'm not so sure about this. Well, I was sure about it, but I was just like, this is the day. Like, this is the big day. And then it all went by extremely fast, way faster than I ever would have imagined. And so, well, we have a video about that, so I'll always remember that. But it was the best day ever, and I could talk about it for hours, because Brad just makes me so happy. I think my favorite video clip from our wedding is when we're leaving the reception, and we do like your typical dip and kiss, and I'm smiling and laughing, and when I get embarrassed, like, I kind of put my head down, so I finish, and I look at the camera, and I like kind of put my head down, and Brad is just grinning from ear to ear, and it was darling. I just love that clip, because that's really how both of us felt. We were so excited, and that's how life has been ever since. There are hard times, it has been difficult, but marrying him was the best decision I ever made. I just want to finish up by saying, like, my life isn't over, but life is so good. I love life, and there are sad times, happy times, angry times, I guess. But overall, life is just amazing, and I've made amazing decisions in my life, which have led me to where I'm at today. And the best decision I ever made was marrying Brad. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the wonderful influence that they are in my life. I'm grateful for everything that sports taught me. I'm grateful for everything that school has taught me, everything that friends have taught me, my mission. I've had so many amazing experiences that have taught me so much, and I'm so grateful for all of that, and I look forward to living a life that is not only hopefully going to bless me, but bless other people as well, because that's what I enjoy most. I like being a light in the world, or a light in the lives of others, and that's my biggest goal in life, is I want to be there for other people, because people have always been there for me. And yeah, I'm excited to continue living for hopefully many, many years, but not as many as Brad, because I want him to, I do want to die before him, because I don't want to be left alone. But I'm looking forward to another 50, 60, 70, who knows, years with him and with the rest of my family and friends, because life really is good.